Good afternoon. Welcome to today's Traffic Commission meeting, July 9th. I want to remind you that today that it is a public meeting, and so whenever you wish to speak, please come to the podium and you'll announce your name and your block of residence, or if you're not a resident of the city of Lancaster, indicate what municipality you do reside in. It's a rather aggressive agenda that we have today. We're going to try to keep it a pace, and towards the tail end of it, we will also be reporting out on the status of the RPP work that's currently underway and announce the next sets of engagement opportunities. So to get started, I want to call us to order and to have us review the May 24 meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of May 14th, 2024. Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Are there any changes? Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Those minutes carry. The next item is old business, considering the request from the Public Works to remove 30 feet of parking on West Orange Street to improve pedestrian visibility at the Marietta Avenue intersection. This is based on a request from Mark Kelly to study the corner of Marietta Avenue and West Orange regarding pedestrian safety. At this point, we're just looking at what the report is. We don't need Mark. Do we need Mark Kelly?
No, I don't think he ever attended it. This was more, engineering was taking the lead on identifying some improvements, so.
So, am I inviting Ben up to speak about this item? Thank you,
Sure.
Ben.
Good afternoon. Ben Hogan, Public Works Engineer for the city. We took a look at this intersection. It was tabled last time with the interest of preserving more on-street parking. So we came up with a revised design here. It requires no additional parking restriction, so it doesn't require any traffic commission action. It's more so just for any comments or advice. This is similar to other installations we've recently put up at Franklin and Lehigh, as well as King and Marshall. We'd be putting flex posts and paint in the intersection to slow turning vehicles and also slow through vehicles by narrowing the travel lanes with those flex posts. This is expected to improve pedestrian safety at that crosswalk and the additional one crossing Orange.
Thank you very much, Ben. Would you describe a little bit more about the pedestrian friendliness of that solution as well?
Sure. So the intent of the pedestrian friendliness is to reduce the pedestrian crossing distance where they're exposed to moving vehicles. So by narrowing the lanes there where it would typically be a parking lane, we can narrow down the pedestrian crossing to around 20 feet for both of those. That makes it less time to cross the street, less time they're exposed to cars. And then we'd also be putting in high visibility crosswalks on both of those crossings to improve pedestrian safety and visibility.
And I correct that there's no loss of parking with this solution as well?
That's correct. So this is using the existing parking restriction that's there in place now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any comments from the commission? Oh, let me introduce, for those of you who don't know, Douglas Smith is no longer working with the city of Lancaster. Lauren Finn from the planning office, from the CPED, has joined us in his position in this commission. Lauren? So are there any other comments from the commission regarding the proposal that Ben has just described? No comments?
I would just add that, West Orange Street is an area that's highlighted in our Vision Zero plan. It's on the high injury network. So these are areas that we're looking at trying to improve safety for, and this is a good way to try and, test out, at relatively low cost, how these types of improvements could improve safety. So I think it's a good way of testing, improvements that could be made, more permanent improvements that could be made in the future.
And I believe this is something that can be implemented administratively?
Yes, since we're not taking away any parking or anything, it doesn't necessarily require commission action. It had come to the commission because the first proposal proposed eliminating 2 parking spaces, and based on the feedback at that meeting, engineering went back and reworked the concept. So, yes, it's just more to get feedback, if there's any other thoughts, or if the commission is in agreement that this is maybe a better solution than the one that was presented last month or last meeting.
Okay, are there any other comments from the commission? Are there comments from the public regarding this proposal? Hearing none, is there a sense of how long it may take for this to be implemented? Will it be a matter of months or?
I'm not sure exactly when. It would be done by this year.
Okay. Thank you very much for taking the initiative and making this presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Next, we move into the new business agenda, which is an action agenda. Item 25-2024, consider the request of Nancy Henry regarding commercial trucks parking on Tennyson Drive and Shelley Road. Is Ms. Henry here?
That's me. My name is Nancy Henry, and I live at 124 Whittier Lane here in Lancaster, which is also commonly known as the Annex. And as soon as I say that, everybody goes, oh, yeah. I'm here to talk about commercial parking on Tennyson Drive and Shelley. You should have a handout in front of you, a two-sided. If you would look at page 1 titled 75 Tennyson Drive, you will notice I have 3 photographs. The first 2 deal with a northern view of Tennyson Drive, and the road does come out onto Lincoln Highway. Conversely, if you look at view 3, you're now looking at the southern view going towards that. The issue is really earmarked in view 2. So if you look closely at that, you'll see 2 very large trucks. They are parked on a corner or a curve where cars cannot pass safely because of the size of the trucks. Now, I need to point out that these trucks very rarely, if ever, move. They're always parked there. And that house also has 6 cars. They move. So if you're going either north or south, you must move out into the oncoming lane to pass. We're advocating that there not be any commercial parking on this corner. It's not a safe, it's a bottleneck. My son had a near miss on the 4th of July because a person comes over the hill on Tennyson. Tennyson also is a bypass for folks who do not want to deal with the lights at Lampeter Road, Pitney Road, Old Philly Pike, and King Street. So they turn onto Longfellow, come over Tennyson, and come out on Lincoln Highway. So it's more than just the local annex traffic. So we're asking if we not have commercial parking from corner of Shelley, which is where the view 1 picture was taken. It was in my son's car, but we were at the corner of Shelley and Tennyson, down around that curve so we can see and we can get around safely. There is precedent, by the way, and I don't think I mentioned that to either of you gentlemen as we were talking about this. There is signage out in the annex that limits or prohibits commercial truck parking. It's out on Chaucer. It's been there for a while, and it's worked. So this is not new to the annex itself. So that's number 1. Page 2, if you flip that over, you've got Shelley. And Shelley had a bit of a twist. However, the sergeant and Mr. Mandros gave me an option on how to deal with the little twist. Here we also have commercial parking. View 1 and view 2, and this is light, by the way. Parking is light. There are some folks missing that particular day. We have two trucks that park on Shelley. There's a red and a white one, and that's my extent of the knowledge of those trucks. They do move as compared to the ones on Tennyson. So they do come and go. However, they have 6 cars and they park up that whole street on both sides. So when we get up to Shelley, you can't see out because they've parked up to the corner. Now, I've been given suggestions on how to deal with that because we were advocating, and this would be the neighborhood folks, we're advocating that we could have no parking for at least 1 car length back on Shelley. There's enough. there's enough space that everybody can scoochie back and still be able to see out and turn, particularly if the trucks are gone. I also need to point out that corner of Shelley and Tennyson is a bus stop. The buses must make the turn onto Shelley because that's where the kids get on and off for Conestoga Valley Schools. So those are my two issues. I was advocating for the white lines, however, you guys kind of don't think it's going to happen, so, or would not fly out in that particular area, but any questions from you folks? Those are our truck issues.
Thank you very much, Ms. Henry. Are there any questions for Ms. Henry for clarification or for further information?
This issue, this is stuff that can be addressed administratively with the commercial, no commercial parking and no parking from, 20 feet from the corner. Or do we need to take action with that?
I believe the commercial vehicle signs have been,
Yeah, we've addressed those in the past, yes.
yeah, I mean, but by the commission, right?
Right.
You're saying commission, yeah. I mean, parking 20 feet within an intersection, no, that doesn't need to be addressed by the commission.
Okay, well then I'll make a motion to approve 2024 with the posting of no commercial vehicles on Tennyson Drive. And should I put the no parking in that motion? From here to
For Shelley?
20 feet from here to corner, or let that go as administrative?
That could be administrative, I guess. I'm not sure, yeah. I guess you're looking for posting the actual.
Yes.
It would, I think would help.
Posting no
because
commercial vehicles.
They're going to ignore, I realize aren't there state laws saying you're supposed to be so many feet back from a corner like that? People don't adhere to it, particularly on this street. I would not say that for the rest of the annex. I mean, they're very respectful. This has become, because the two houses, the house on the left side of Shelley and the right side are running small businesses out of their homes. So a lot of this is parking for their business. And that's where you get to see in view 3, the vans, the cars. We have pickup trucks with trailers. And it just is wall to wall. And this has just happened in the past year? Not even, since they built 1808's a new home. They split that property, built that, and that's when we got the 2 trucks and the 6 cars, and then the business started. So they've added to that. So up until this point, we have not had this issue. Now, when you pull up to the corner, and I was nearly hit the other morning because you can't see around up or down Tennyson, and somebody's trying to turn in, and there's no place to go because it's 3 wide. So I don't know if it's an administrative. Now, I did get some suggestions, and I wrote down your suggestions, and I plan to tell the neighbors to use it. If there's parking, to call the non-emergency number, and the folks at that end will take care of checking that. I'm fine with that if it works. But if there's a no parking, that might help it even more.
I'm sorry, which so it's at Shelley?
It's Shelley, here's, if you look at the 1808 Shelley Road View 1 picture, that's taken, you're looking, I'm standing on Whittier when I took that, I'm sorry, at the corner of Shelley and Whittier, straight down to the corner, it's a T onto Tennyson. So that little white rancher that you see with the little brown porch is on Tennyson Drive. So it's a T road, and it's a tight corner, and I don't know how the buses do it when,
Is this the view? Is this the view that you're talking about?
No, it would be looking, I think, closer to the east. Yeah, and turn around.
This is the corner.
Yeah.
This house on this side started a small business, and this one has done some.
If you can speak back into the
I don't have my distance glasses on, so therefore I got to get close to see it, but yes, that's it. I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah, administratively, we could post, from 30 feet from the stop sign, we could say no parking.
no parking near the corner,
Right,
Right.
as we've typically done.
right.
I'm not opposed to the cross-hatching and delineators, I just don't know that would,
Yeah,
that's
I'm not sure
appropriate
that,
for the area.
right, I'm not sure that's necessary. We're trying to.
Right.
prioritize.
Well, I was using what you folks have done here in town, which I really love, by the way. Thank you. And the no turn on red signs, even better, because he got nearly hit on Orange Street, and I got hit on Lemon, so, okay, thank you. That would work. I think that would let the neighbors know that they've got to come back so we can easily get in and out of the development, because Shelley is the main artery for the annex to get out to Lincoln Highway,
Tennis.
to Tennyson, well, Shelley to Tennyson and out, so.
So do you know you had started making?
Yeah, so what I'll do is, just to clear my motion up, is, I want to make a motion to approve 2024. Make a motion to approve the placement of, no commercial vehicle parking on Tennyson Drive. And, I guess, and any other, stuff that needs to be addressed administratively, with no parking here in the corner.
Are you also going to do Shelley? For the trucks? For commercial parking on Shelley as well as Tennyson? Okay, thank you.
Tennyson and Shelley.
Well, both, yeah, then I'll make it in Shelley Road too.
So there's been a motion, is there a second?
I would second the motion for the installation of no commercial vehicle parking on both Tennyson and Shelley.
So there's been a motion and a second, is there any further discussion at the council level?
I guess just to clarify what the limits, are we talking about doing all of Tennyson or?
I was advocating from this corner towards Lincoln Highway around that curve. Once you're around that curve, it's a pretty straight, and then there's another slight one. That's the curve that's the issue. Once you're around that, it widens up enough that it's not,
Not an issue.
yeah, no.
Okay, so,
So that would be accurate on Tennyson from Shelley to Lincoln Highway,
yes.
no commercial vehicle parking.
That would work. Makes it
Do we
easier
have
for
to
you.
clarify that motion, Ms. McCormick? Do we have to clean that up? Or are you okay
Yeah, I
with
don't
it?
know.
I would say yes.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So the motion to be amended again for 2024 will be, installation of no commercial truck parking on Tennyson Drive. And this is from Shelley Road to, on Tennyson Drive from Shelley Road to Lincoln Highway.
And I would second Mr. Mandros's amended.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second for the amended. Are there any other comments or questions at the council level? At the commission level, rather? Are there any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. The next item in the action agenda is item 26-2024, considering the request of Michael Armour, who is requesting a traffic study for the addition of stop signs at South Shippen Street and Locust Street to have stop signs in all directions instead of only on Locust Street.
Director Campbell, we received an email from Mr. Armour stating that due to the short notice of the meeting, he would be unable to attend. And I would make a motion to table 26-2024 until the next meeting and Mr. Armour's potential availability.
There's been a motion to table.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have called the question. Cindy?
So we were able to look back into our files in August of 2022. Always stop is not warranted at this location, and we did add cross traffic does not stop plaque to try and clarify. And there have been no reportable crashes at this location in the past 5 years. So if we still want to consider the request at the next meeting to give him an opportunity to speak, that's fine, but I just wanted to make sure the commission had that information before tabling it for the next meeting.
So by tabling it, it still allows it to be withdrawn or to be considered?
we could reach out to Mr. Armour, advise him of Ms. McCormick's findings, and see if he'd still like to make a presentation to the commission.
Okay.
Very good.
If the board's okay with that?
I'm okay with that. Any further comments or questions? Any from the public? Hearing none, all in favor of tabling this till next session?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. The next item is item 27-2024, considering the request of Cecilia Parker to restrict trucks over a certain height and length on the 500 block of East Mifflin Street. Is Ms. Parker present?
No, this was, more of an engineering, request
Okay.
based on our coordination with Mr. Parker.
Would you like to speak to it, or will I have Ben speak to it?
Yeah, Ben can provide some information.
So I can talk about this a bit. This has been an ongoing problem for probably the past year. Miss Parker's house is on the right-hand side of Mifflin Street right there. And typically trucks that are making the movement turning right off of Mifflin toward King Street will clip the side of her house and have damaged her porch a number of times. So we looked at truck traffic in this area. It's originating from K&L Plating Company, which is on this block. And from photo and video we received of the truck that caused the most recent issue, it's a 40-foot box truck. So looking at truck turning movements in this area, the configuration of the intersection, we determined that 40-foot box trucks are not appropriate for this street, and we believe that restricting trucks to 30-foot would be appropriate for this area and resolve the issue.
And fully resolve the issue, so it's the length and not the height of the truck?
Yes, the length of it goes hand in hand. The 40-foot box trucks are the same height as the 30-foot box trucks. However, when they make that turning movement toward King Street, it seems the top of the trailer tends to clip the house when it's dropping down onto, I believe that's Marshall Street there, Ann Street. That seems to be the cause of the issue. So we believe by restricting it to 30 feet, the back end of the truck will not lift up as much and prohibit it from striking Ms. Parker's house.
Is there anything that would be required in terms of notifying that business about the restriction, the truck restrictions as well?
I believe we had notified them before this meeting of that this would be before the Traffic Commission, and we've had additional coordination in the past with the property owner regarding this issue.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions from the commission about this item? Are you coming in this person's stead?
Yeah, I'm the plant manager at K&L.
Okay, would you like to speak as well?
Mhm.
So, you may as well speak now.
All right, hello. Like I said, my name is Mike. I am the plant manager at K&L Plating. Yeah, our boss could not make it.
I'm sorry, can you speak a little bit closer to the microphone?
I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm the plant manager at K&L Plating. I know we have had issues with trucks. All right, so let me clarify. I'm from Reading. I moved here 3 years ago. I've been working at K&L probably about 7 years, so I'm driving back and forth until I moved here. So if I don't know all the streets, I apologize. I know Marshall and I know Ann is the other one, right, and then the Lemon. So on Ann Street, which is, I guess that's Ann right there?
Correct.
Okay. So that corner house on the right, looking at the picture from where I'm looking at, yeah, she has had issues with trucks, I guess, bumping her house or whatever. So first I need to say that none of those are our trucks. Yes, they come delivered to us or they pick up from us. We have one truck, which is a delivery truck for certain customers that need a delivery, and that's probably maybe a 15-foot truck. It's not that big. So none of those are our trucks per se. I understand it's still an issue, caused by our customers. I know she put poles up in front of her house. I don't know of an issue that happened recently. I believe you said there was just something that recently happened, but I'm not aware of.
There was, I don't remember the exact dates.
Okay, all right, but I'm not aware of anything that happened recently. We have had issues where her coming down to us and speaking with us. Actually, on one occasion, we did have to call the police to come get her out because she wouldn't leave. But she doesn't understand that it's not our trucks. Okay, so I just want to make that clear. And honestly, when we got the notice on Wednesday, I had no idea why we got the notice. So I'm not 100% prepared. I thought maybe it was the road work that was going to be done eventually on East Mifflin. So, but I am familiar with what you're speaking about, and I personally don't see a problem with making the trucks smaller. There's times where we get bigger trucks that we can't get in. I call it an alley. We can't get in on Mifflin Street. So we'll have them go to Marshall, and then we'll take our tow motor down to Marshall and do everything there. Very few, less than 1% of the time do we come to this end on Ann to get a truck. We'll always have them, even if they come to this end, we have them go around to Marshall. The trucks that can make it, obviously we let them make it. We can't make that decision for them. I wouldn't have a problem if they're smaller trucks. Like I said, we just have to, just so you guys know, we do have to take the tow motor then to Mifflin Street. Now, we do take 2 people, to help with the traffic to do that. So I'm okay with that. I'm not sure that a 30-foot truck, I don't know, I can't determine the size without seeing it. So I don't know what the difference would be between the 30 and 40 other than the 10 feet. But honestly, I don't have an issue with that myself,
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I'm assuming that the way that such a consideration would be honored would be to add signage to this effect. How would it be made clear what trucks can and cannot go into this West Mifflin?
I don't think it'd be any different than what we've done in the past, where we've restricted height of vehicles. And something as simple as no vehicles over 30 foot in length permitted. Something as simple as that on Marshall and Ann at both entrances to Mifflin Street. I think that's an easy fix.
Okay. Are there other comments or questions on the commission? Are there other comments and questions from the public? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I don't think do we need to make one, Mr. McCormick? We can put up administrative signage, correct?
No, I think when we're doing truck, we're restricting access of vehicles.
Okay. My apologies.
Traffic.
I would like to make a motion regarding, where we at here? Oh, my goodness. 27-2024 and request the installation of signage on Mifflin Street at Ann and Mifflin Street at South Marshall Street, indicating no trucks over 30 foot in length permitted.
I hear a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ben. The next item on the agenda is item 28-2024, considering the request of Matthew Sweeney to limit parking to one side of the street on Prangley Avenue or to make it unidirectional. The street is too narrow to have parking on both sides, is the assertion. Mr. Sweeney?
Hi, my name is Matthew Sweeney. I live at 652 4th Street. Prangley Avenue, when there's traffic on both sides between West End Avenue and Pearl Street, there's nowhere to yield to oncoming traffic. If you start coming down that road and a car is coming toward you with parking on both sides, there is nowhere to go. Any vehicle that goes down there, a delivery truck, an emergency vehicle, there's no way to get around them without backing up and back onto West End or Pearl Street. It becomes incredibly common.
Am I correct that Prangley is the one that's going straight up and down, or is Prangley the one to the left?
Prangley is, this is actually a different intersection for 29-2024.
Okay, sorry.
It should be one block up on the corner of Prangley Avenue and Pearl Street. Yep, up that way.
Very good.
Yes, it's that block there.
Okay.
So going straight up this way, there's no driveways or alleys that would naturally create a gap. And on both sides of the street, it's row homes, up and down the entire block, and it's probably 300 or 400 feet long. And one car will stop, and that car will jam up that entire road for 10, 15, 20 minutes at a time, and there's just no way to get around them. Obviously, given the fact that it's all row homes on both sides, restricting the parking to one side is going to cause a significant issue. And the only solution that I can see is some type of no parking zone in the middle that would allow that kind of a pass-through if there's two-way traffic, or restricting it to purely one-way traffic, although you'd still end up with the problem of somebody stopping in the middle. So it's just one of those natural choke points that a lot of people take coming from West End Avenue through Pearl toward Ruby or out of that neighborhood.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sweeney. Did staff take a look at this?
We just reviewed it from the perspective of what the width of the street was. I believe it's, 30 feet in that direction. So it is correct that, two vehicles can't pass. It's very narrow. But we generally don't like to change. We don't like to make streets like this one way, just because then it tends to encourage higher speeds and that kind of thing, where the friction, of vehicles needing to yield to each other. There's a such thing as a yield street as well. But to his point, if there's really no area for people to be able to pull over, that could be something that we look at in a little bit more detail as far as seeing if there's an area that could be designated sort of as no parking to create that opportunity. But I guess we would want to look at it more if that's the desire.
Even something as simple as the installation of a couple of fire hydrants would restrict parking by 10, 15 feet. You'd have a place to pull over. It'd be a natural place to yield. There just isn't that at the current moment anywhere on that street, anywhere toward the middle of it, where naturally that choke point would be.
Is there further discussion about the possibilities to consider for this particular stretch?
Do you have like the traffic, what the traffic is on Prang Way?
Do we have it as far as volumes or?
Yeah, the volume.
I don't think we have any counts for this. I mean, it is something that we could collect as well to determine just how much traffic is using it.
To make any of the changes, I know we would have to look at it, study-wise, or make some kind of before the removal on one side or any of the.
And I think,
It does appear there is a fire hydrant sort of in the middle of the block there, near 838.
and I think, am I correct that what you might be suggesting, Cindy, is that there be at least a modest study to show what might the possibilities be and how they would be executed?
I guess we could.
Or
I guess that, seeing that fire hydrant though, I'm just wondering, maybe there is,
a simple,
maybe there's already an example of where there is a gap.
Because this would be this is a similar issue like on East Frederick Street.
Right, sure.
yes.
Near the
That's why I
hospital.
said we need to
Yeah.
look at it.
So are there other suggestions about how this situation might be addressed at the commission level? It sounds.
Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to take some time to get out there and put some eyes on and come up with some ideas on site. I wouldn't feel comfortable making any suggestions or recommendations at this time. And that's no disrespect to you, Mr. Sweeney. We just really got to get out there and see what's going on and get a good idea of the landscape and then come up with some potential ideas to alleviate this problem for you.
No, I understand completely.
So I'm hearing a recommendation for this to be tabled, and that a study be conducted, and we come back at the next, perhaps at the next meeting with ideas or proposals of how to address the situation. Is that
I would
correct?
agree. So I would like to make a motion regarding action item 28-2024 and recommend that a more in-depth look be given to Prangley Avenue in regards to Mr. Sweeney's issues in the area, and subsequently table 28-2024 until next traffic commission meeting.
I hear a motion.
Seconded.
Second, is there any further discussion? Any further comment from the public? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We hope to report back at the next traffic commission meeting, but don't go anywhere. The next item is yours as well. Consider the request of Matthew Sweeney for signage to be added to the intersection of Prangley Avenue, Fifth Street, and Ruby Street. Fifth Street is one way, and there are no signs or indicators on who has the right of way. And that was the picture that we saw before. This is the correct intersection?
Yes. So with this particular intersection, my driveway is actually directly on the left behind that building. There's only a single stop sign that faces up Fifth Street, which is this road that's directly going kind of diagonal toward the right, which is a one-way road coming toward you. It's a major cross, kind of cut through for people coming from Manor Street to Ruby and then heading down Ruby or into the kind of the Jules neighborhood. The problem is that Prangley, which is the road that goes straight, is apparently a two-way road. Well, you have people that come down Fifth Street and go straight out onto Ruby Street and only stop there without looking for the traffic that may be coming up Prangley. Same with the people that are trying to drive down Prangley, which is, again, a two-way road. The people from Fifth Street do not have a traffic indication of whether they have to stop for traffic on Prangley. I was originally told that the thought was to put a stop sign on Prangley, but as you can see, it's kind of this weird combination of an intersection where you would ultimately have to have a stop sign leading onto the road, and then as well from the other way coming toward this image. I think the reasonable alternative is to place a stop sign on Fifth Street to stop traffic entering onto Prangley, traffic entering onto Prangley, to then stop, then safely enter Prangley, then stop to enter Ruby.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Has staff looked at this intersection?
Yes, we have, as Ben.
Ben, can you come and speak to this?
Sure.
Hold on.
Yep.
Mr. Hogan will.
So engineering reviewed this intersection, primarily looking at it from street hierarchy and crash records. So there was no crash history within the past 5 years for the particular intersection of Prangley and Fifth. There were 2 incidents at Ruby and Prangley, the nearby intersection. But looking at the street hierarchy in this area, Prangley Avenue functions more as an alley, a two-way alley to access the rear of properties and garages and parking areas, whereas Fifth Street has sidewalk on both sides and is a higher volume street connecting Manor to Ruby Street. So we believed it would be proper to post a stop sign on Prangley Avenue, with it being kind of lower in the street hierarchy between the two. Put an additional plaque on the stop sign that says traffic from the left does not stop, and then also remove 20 feet of on-street parking on Fifth Street to provide visibility of traffic on Prangley Ave that's trying to access Fifth and then Ruby.
So in this picture, for instance, the truck that's currently there, the green truck that's currently there, would be prohibited in the
Yes,
future?
that's correct.
For visibility purposes?
For sight distance, yes.
Does that address the concerns the way that you had described them, Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Is there any further discussion from the commission about the proposed addressing of this situation?
Like the way Ben works. Thanks.
I like the way that Ben works as well. Are there any further comments from the public? Hearing none, I'm open to hearing a motion.
I'll make a motion to install a stop sign on the Prangley approach to the Fifth and Prangley intersection, and also restrict parking 20 feet on Fifth Street to improve sightlines.
And that would also include the signage
Seconded.
that warns people coming up Fifth.
Cross traffic does not stop.
Thank you.
We have a motion.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. The next item on the agenda is item 30-2024, considering the request of Joel Velez, Jorel Owens, Zach Millinger, and Rydell Velez to install speed bumps on Reynolds Avenue. Are any of these entities present?
Yep, I'm here. Both of us are here. Hey, Joel Velez, 561 Reynolds Ave. Basically, what we wanted to ask was if we could get speed bumps put in our street. It's a very narrow street, one way, and people just drive really fast down the street, and they even, a lot of people complain about their mirrors getting knocked out. We have kids that play on the, on the sidewalks, but sometimes they go on the street, they're kids. And, we just feel a safety concern. There's even a children playing sign, but that doesn't deter people. They drive really quick down the street, so that's our concern, that we could add speed bumps.
Are any of the other individuals present who might want to speak as well?
Zach is here.
Hello, my name's Zachary Mellinger. I actually think the angle would be better from Franklin Street, looking down Reynolds Ave, being a one-way. We're looking at it like from the opposite angle, basically. So if you just go straight up Reynolds Avenue, it would be a much better angle. The other way, just straight up the street and then turn around, because it's all a one-way. And basically, cars reach up to probably 40, 50 miles an hour at least coming down there.
On this street?
Yes. And you see how bottlenecked it is up the whole way. That's my home right there with the trees right in front of it. And that's a business that was at the corner on the white. So it's just a very restricted, narrow street.
Right there.
And there's parking on both sides of it. Right there, it looks rather open, which is not a normal case. Yeah, that's probably early in the morning when most people are at work. So it's just, when you get a lot of high speeds and you hear them, you feel it, you see it. It's just very rough.
Okay, thank you very much. Is this a situation that staff is also taking a look at?
Again, just, I guess, from the perspective of the width of the street, we don't have any speed data currently related to this, and there were no reportable crashes in the past 5 years based on the data that we have along this section.
That's interesting. A friend of mine lived further down the block, and they had an accident, and it was reported to the police. They were unloading their children. Their door was open. It was dark out, and a man was parked directly there at the left-hand corner, didn't turn his lights on, and went speeding down, probably hit about 40 or 50. And luckily, neither of them were in the street, but he hit their door with so much force that it towed the vehicle, and it also pushed it up onto the curb. And there was a police response to that as well. So that's interesting that there's no...
So just to clarify, reportable crashes are only, there's a certain definition, so they have reportable and unreportable crashes that the police deal with. So reportable usually means that either the vehicle has to be towed or that someone is injured.
Oh,
So that's the data that we have most readily available, and also we only have data up to 2022.
right.
Because we're using PennDOT crash data,
Mhm.
as far as when we're doing a quick reference.
Understood.
Are there ways of addressing the speed on this street? They've asked, for instance, for speed bumps, which is something that I know that we generally try to stay away from for maintenance among other reasons, but what kinds of strategies could be entertained for?
I mean, they have the strategy that is most easily obtained in a lot of these locations, and that is narrow streets. So usually the narrowness of the street is what tends to make people go slower. So I'm not sure there's much that we can do. I will say that as part of our Vision Zero work, we want to, and will be, creating a neighborhood slow zone program. So just to have a way to prioritize, like we get a lot of requests for neighborhood streets like this to, have speed bumps or have traffic calming on them. So when we develop that program, there'll be a way of prioritizing, where to install things like, we are considering speed humps or other, ways of slowing vehicles, like narrowing the lanes. Sometimes if you put some kind of, vertical deflections, which are basically speed humps, or speed tables, raised intersections, those kind of things, is usually the type of traffic calming that we're looking at.
Did you know what much of that terminology was about?
Sorry,
Yeah, I understand.
sometimes I, use a lot of jargon.
Are there other things that people might either suggest, recommend, or want to consider to address it before before the program goes into effect?
Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't started, that's part of our Safe Streets for All funding, which we haven't been able to get the agreement with FHWA yet, the Federal Highways Administration, but we anticipate that would be one of the first projects that we would try and implement. So it could probably be 6 months, though, to a year before the program is actually in place.
Do we know if this is also on the high injury network?
It is not. It's not.
Are there any other comments or questions or suggestions from the commission?
We definitely have a lot of as part of our Vision Zero work, which is, we're trying to eliminate crashes within the city, fatal and serious injury crashes, so that's what the Vision Zero initiative is based on, the vision of having zero fatal and serious injury crashes. So we do have like yard signs and those kind of things that, we give away for free that, what is the one? Slow down, thank you. Watch for people, those kind of things. So we definitely have those kinds of things that you could be providing for you and your neighbors to try and encourage people to self-regulate their speeding a little bit.
And when the program does go into effect, what might they expect in terms of how the safe neighborhoods?
It's not totally clear like how we would structure the program, if it would be more selected based on actual needs, actual crashes and those kind of things, or if it would be more of a neighborhood-driven initiative, if people were bringing those to it. It's not totally clear yet, but there will definitely be public input related to that process.
Now, the signs that you had mentioned, I know we have some upstairs. Is that something that you'd be interested in taking with you as well?
No, I don't think that the visibility would allow for it. When there's cars parked on both sides and it's extremely busy, there is no deterrent to the speeding, hence why we're here. They won't be able to see the signs. They won't be visible because the cars will block that because they sit lower down.
I see.
So there's nowhere to place the said signs. Most people don't have yards on the front. So, no, that's ineffective.
Is there any other,
I could put a speed trailer out there.
So we can start to collect-
Just to get an idea. And I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
I hate driving down your street.
It's horrible. Yeah.
I hate it.
EMS can't even get down there.
Narrow.
Yeah.
Trust me when I tell you, I have to crawl.
Both my mirrors are missing currently. Yeah.
I have no problem putting a speed trailer out there just to get an idea of what are the speeds.
Right.
Just realize if I do that, I'm taking some of your parking away.
I understand.
As long as you guys don't care, I'll bring one out for you,
Hey, I'm cool with that.
okay?
Thank you.
That way we can either, verify what
Yeah.
we're seeing, or we disprove it and be like, hey, they're actually going kind of slow.
And I'd feel great about that.
Okay,
That way you have the data to support, claims or make a more educated decision. It's
Okay.
good.
and that's something that can be done administratively, we don't have to take action.
that's correct, sir.
So in the meantime, should we table this until after the speed camera goes, the machine goes up?
I'll make a motion for, to table 30/2024, till the next, meeting. This is to verify any of the speeding issues on Reynolds Avenue.
Thank you.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
And just so you know, sir, I'll have it out there for about 2 weeks. We'll get 2 weeks worth of data.
Okay,
That's 24/7.
that sounds great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Any other comments or questions from the public?
Thank you.
Hearing none,
I don't.
sorry. Okay, okay, very good. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. We'll be collecting some data on the situation and be able to look at it with more information.
Sounds good. Thank you.
very
Thank you,
much for
guys.
bringing it to our attention.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
The next item is item 31-2024, considering the request of Carl Feldman regarding concerns about Hamilton Street and Reservoir Street speeding and angle crashes. I believe this is a case where where Adriana is
I believe Ms. Atencio is going to speak on
on
Mr.
his
Feldman's behalf.
Very good. Ms. Atencio?
Hi, yes, I'm here on behalf of Carl Feldman. Hello, I'm sorry I cannot join you today. My name is Carl Feldman, and I live on the 600 block of Hamilton Street. I requested the addition of the intersection of Reservoir and Hamilton to your agenda due to concerns for the safety of pedestrians and cyclists. This sentiment is shared by my neighbors who live at the southeast and northeast corners, Olivia and Ken. Our specific concern is that because the east-west traffic has a stop sign, but the north-south traffic does not. This north-south traffic drives very fast off or towards State Route 23, New Holland Avenue, likely headed either through downtown or to Route 30 entrance ramps to the northeast. Angle crashes have occurred on occasion due to the inability to see this north-south traffic behind parked cars. Often drivers and even the bus must creep very far into the intersection to determine that it is clear to pass, and this obstructs the crosswalk. Clear walks and streets at this intersection is key to safety because this is the primary connection from the wider neighborhood to the Sixth Ward Park where children play and the Lancaster Rec programming takes place daily in the summertime. I would be supportive of anything the city is willing to consider to improve sightlines and safety when crossing in this intersection. Using flex posts on Reservoir to daylight the intersection could slow traffic and give pedestrians an easier time walking to the park. It is likely that the bus route is changing to discontinue use of the stop on the northwest Hamilton Street side, so this would add back some vehicle street space to compensate if you see this as relevant. My neighbors mentioned the desire for a stop sign as well when discussing this with DPW staff at the Mayor's Neighborhood Month Park Party in May. We welcome your efforts to protect us at this intersection. Thank you. I'm just going to stay up here in case Carl has anything to text me because he is watching.
Okay, very good. Are we aware of whether this intersection is on the high injury network?
Reservoir Street is not on the high injury network.
Hamilton?
No.
Okay. Are there other comments or questions from the commission regarding this request? Has staff taken a look at the situation?
Yeah, I mean, we've looked at it from the perspective of, there were 2 reportable crashes in 2019. One was an angle crash. And we don't have any speed data or anything related to this intersection. The Reservoir Street was paved, I guess, in the last 2 years, so the intersection does have the high visibility crosswalks now on all 4 sides of the intersection. So it's not necessarily the same as what you're seeing here in the photo.
This capture is from June of 2011, it says.
Right. We have been doing, the flex posts at some of the intersections. We are trying to prioritize where they are located as well, because there are a lot of locations that are on the high injury network that we're trying to prioritize. So we haven't identified this necessarily as a location to add the flex posts.
what either at the administrative level or at another level might be able to be considered? Is it a matter where we need to do a little bit more research, a little bit more study, or is it something where, on the face of it, the information does not warrant taking action?
If I may add, this is also a high pedestrian area for kids getting to school, for McCaskey and Lincoln too.
Okay. So I do
And
know
what-
that one of the things in the
Well, a
Vision
lot
Zero
better
effort
rock now
is
than the roof.
intersections near schools. Does that trigger anything on our part for proactive action?
I mean, that's, we have been prioritizing Franklin Street, as far as the delineators, because of the proximity to the school. It's just getting a little bit further away from it. I don't know if we could, if there's an issue with parking too close to the intersection, if we could reiterate that with no parking signs, related to the crosswalks.
Unless there are flex posts included with the paint, people ignore the paint and park in it. They don't care.
It also sounds like this might be one of those opportunities for the Friendly Safe Streets program consideration. I forgot the name of it. I know I'm calling it the wrong.
Neighborhood slow zones.
No, neighborhood slow zones, yes. Are there other comments or questions at the commission level? Ideas, thoughts, considerations? Are there other questions or either things that you or Carl would like to add, or other things that, from the public?
There's a bubble.
So he's about,
I think we could definitely, if we just post the signs, even without the paint, the no parking signs within the 20 feet of the crosswalks, just to reiterate.
and this would likely be a candidate for the neighborhood-friendly zones.
Potentially. I mean, it's hard for me to say until
Well,
we
I guess in-
actually have a program in place.
in the sense that such a program, in principle, it would be inviting from the public those areas that people found to be of concern.
Carl said he'll take some signs. I just want to reiterate, though, it's unfortunate that we live in the world that we live in today where people value their cars over pedestrian and vulnerable road user safety in general. But we see it kind of all over the city that if there are not flex posts, it doesn't matter what signage there is, it doesn't matter what paint there is, people will park in these places, and it does not matter that people's safety is at risk. The flex posts do help because people literally cannot park there, but we also see people removing flex posts because they figure out how to do that.
I can also tell you that we've dealt with people that drive over the flex post.
That too.
And put themselves in a nice little flex post corral
Yeah.
with their vehicle. So it does happen, and I agree. I mean, I can tell you my staff does one heck of a job out there ticketing, if necessary, towing.
And they are responsive, I will say that.
Right.
I ask for a call back because I want to know that they do go out there and they do call back, and I ask for it. I don't know that citizens know that they can call, though, all the time, and that's just an added step where it creates dangerous situations for people. And I know it does add a cost, but is it the cost of a human life at the end of the day? You know what I mean? So
I can tell you that I am literally in the middle of drafting some social media postings regarding traffic issues, parking issues, specifically blocking garages and driveways and too close to intersections, letting people know the city ordinances. Some people don't. They legitimately do not, and that's okay. So our attempt is to educate them and also let them know the repercussions for violating those. So we're going to do our best to educate because we're seeing more and more of this. So
Yeah.
that tells me either one, people don't care or they don't know. And for those that don't know, we'll educate them. And for those that maybe don't care as they should, we'll take enforcement actions.
So it sounds like administratively, we can add signs to reinforce that there is no parking in the particular areas. It should be considered as under consideration for the neighborhood.
Slow zone.
neighborhood. And in that sense, perhaps it could be tabled, or would it be just not taken as just dealt with administratively, and we follow up as, after the signs are up?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and no action needs to be taken on this then?
I don't believe so.
No, that'll be dealt with administratively.
And it'll be
Adrian,
reported in
you
the
can
minutes.
stay up.
Yeah, I was gonna just look, I was like, what?
So then the next item on the agenda is item 32-2024, considering the request of Adriana Atencio to address speeding concerns on North Prince Street from Liberty Street to Harrisburg Avenue. Ms. Atencio?
There's no form of traffic calming on Prince Street between Liberty and James/Harrisburg. I either drive or walk this frequently, and people fly by me, and I'm very careful to go either the speed limit or slightly under, because 20 is plenty. And people fly all the time. Recently, a cyclist was just hit being in the bike lane when somebody did a cut through the former AAA building / Wells Fargo building as well. So people are not even really paying attention to what's going on because they're driving like they have been doing recently. So I'm wondering too, with the bakery coming down, it leaves even more of a widened area too. And we know that when people aren't feeling as closed in, they tend to drive faster. How we can possibly make this corridor slower, especially with the stadium being there, with more housing being built along it too, with Stadium Row Round 2 coming up. How we can maybe address some of the speeds that people hit.
Thank you very much. Is this one, Cindy, where staff has taken a look at the situation as well?
We haven't studied it in detail. And I guess we don't have any speed data on file related to this.
Can you speak a little bit to the challenges and/or the circumstances that Ms. Atencio described?
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree that, there are no sort of impediments. It's pretty unimpeded because of the lack of development that sort of fronts Prince Street along this corridor. And the lack of even use of the parking lane, I think also probably contributes to higher speeds in this section. It is, I guess, a little bit challenging in trying to identify what we could potentially do here. This Prince Street is part of what we're looking at for two-way conversion, because we're recognizing that these two-lane one-way streets contribute to higher speeds, so a way of improving safety. But that is, probably a couple years out, a year for the study at least, and then, till we identify what streets would be included.
Is this officially on the High Entry Network as well?
I believe so. I'm trying to think if Prince is, a portion of Prince wasn't, but I'd have to double check, I'm sorry.
And I just want to point out too that in this image, you do have the bakery here and the bakery is no longer there. So that is wide open space now.
So it's certainly on the radar in terms of being able to do something to address it. If it's on the High Entry Network, it would be part of a more coordinated effort as well. Are there any things that might be considered or suggested or thought about while awaiting such actions to be taken
We actually have some speed enforcement details that are upcoming. We've had traffic trailers out here in the past, and we can certainly get them back out. I just, the latest numerous complaint area has been West Orange Street.
Yeah, that's always,
Down West Orange Street, I peppered West Orange Street with traffic trailers. I have 3 of them along the 6-block stretch.
Yeah.
Hopefully an attempt to slow people down. And listen, we can only do so much. Either people are going to realize I'm speeding and slow down, or see how quick we can get to the next one. But we can certainly look at doing that along Prince Street as well, and along with the enforcement details, something we can certainly look at.
Are there other comments, questions, or suggestions from the
Cindy,
commission?
is this, are we gonna look at these streets for, in the study about converting, some of them to two-way?
Yes, as part of our Safe Streets for All grant from the Federal Highway Administration, that includes a study of all of our major one-way routes. As, you know, it's a study for the potential conversion of them to two-way. So that study will evaluate all those, I think there's 9 of them, as far as, you know, most of them are the state routes. Basically the 2-lane one-way streets, study to see which ones it would be feasible to convert to two-way, or, you know, whatever makes the most sense. So we will be studying that as part of that grant. And we anticipate that would start as soon as we get the agreement with the Federal Highway Administration. That's one of the first things we want to do, because the hope is that if we identify streets that we want to convert, then the grant can help to pay for the initial conversion of a street or two with that funding as well.
But even a partial, two-way conversion, too. I mean, that might even, address, some of the concerns, you know, like, even on certain stretches, like we're talking.
Sure.
West Orange and, North Prince.
Right.
Is there anything that might be suggested in the short term? I know that it's 2 or 3 programs now that this avenue will be the focus of. And, but in the meantime, is there anything that might be recommended or suggested?
I'll get the speed trailers out, and we'll make this a targeted enforcement area for speed enforcement.
Very good.
That's what I can do for you short term.
okay. Can they be in the parking lane?
What's that?
Can they be in the parking lane since nobody uses it?
Are there any other questions or comments from the public?
I'm also just wondering if there is anything from the city perspective that we can do about people using the former AAA building as a cut-through. If there's any public signage or anything that we can put up to prevent people from using that. Now, the property owner does have signage up, and at night and on the weekends, they are fencing that off. But is there anything that, as city government, that can be done to help prevent that?
I thought the fencing they were putting up was
For construction, right?
24/7, yeah, for the construction fencing.
It's at night and on the weekends.
The fencing they just put up,
99% sure. Let me recheck that email, but
they said there would be a gate that they could use to access the site if they needed.
it'll be propped open for subcontractor access, and it'll be closed off hours and weekends.
I mean, yeah, short of blocking it, I'm not sure what we can do.
Okay,
Um,
I was just curious.
I mean, I could have a conversation with the construction company, hey, guys, any way?
They've been super responsive. I just didn't know if we could put any sort of,
Barrier, temporary, or otherwise?
Well, yeah, I mean, the property owner is providing the barrier.
Yeah.
When possible.
You You said they are responsive to your router?
Yeah.
Are you okay having that conversation with them?
Yeah, I just didn't know if like there was any additional, anything that we could do. Because they're doing nights and weekends when they're not in construction. I don't know,
We're open to
while we were
suggestions.
also looking at this.
Um, Well, at least the trailers will be going up. Will that be able to, will one of those be able to perhaps monitor the use or misuse of this cross-through?
No.
Okay.
I did want to say thank you for the flex posts and paint at Broad and Chestnut. They look great.
They do look great. If I do say so myself.
I took a picture today.
Thank you very much. So what's been recommended here is can be done administratively, correct?
Yeah, it's administrative right now.
Okay. And we'll just continue to monitor and keep it on our radar as the next programs move forward. Thank you very much. The next item is item 33-2024. Consider the Public Works proposal to lessen parking restrictions on the northeast corner of First at Pearl Street from 40 feet to 20 feet. This originated as a fix-it request from Jacob Whetstone. Is Mr. Whetstone here?
No, I think Ben is going to present.
Okay, very good.
Sure, I can go over this. We got a fix-it complaint about, I believe it's the northeast corner of Pearl and First on the First Street side. Currently, there's a 40-foot parking restriction, but the curb is striped yellow for 20 feet. We no longer maintain painted curbs as no parking areas. However, it's apparently led to some confusion about what is the legal parking area there and what is not. So that's an always stop at Pearl and First. So we don't necessarily have a need for sight distance at the intersection. So the plan is to restrict parking within 20 feet of the intersection rather than 40. That's typical with many of our other applications throughout the city. We think, from research, I couldn't find any traffic commission minutes in the past that detailed why that parking restriction was put in place. We think it may have predated the always stop there and that it was needed for visibility in the past. So just to confirm, we reached out to nearby property owners and the nearby business to make sure that they wouldn't have any issue with legalizing parking in that area. And after not hearing anything from them, we believe that's our recommendation to the commission.
Okay, very good. Any other comments or questions of Ben with his presentation? Any questions or comments or concerns from the public?
This is that as well.
This can be done administratively, we believe, without.
Well, no, actually, we're
taking-
losing spaces, we
losing
have to,
parking.
right?
Yeah, we're adding,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
related to the restriction.
Yeah, so we do.
Okay,
So
so may I hear a motion?
I'd make a motion to reduce the no parking zone on the northeast corner of First Street at Pearl from 40 to 20 feet.
I will second that motion.
Been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Any further comments from the public? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you.
The next item is item 34-2024, considering the request from engineering to remove 3 metered parking spaces on the northeast corner of James at North Duke Street in order to install a left turn lane. Cindy, is this you or Ben?
This will be me. I can go over this a bit.
Very good.
So we had gotten complaints about this intersection about westbound traffic backing up. After observations, it does back up quite a lot, even in midday when you're not expecting volumes to be the highest. It tends to be for left-turning vehicles that are headed westbound, turning left onto North Duke Street. They stack up at the front there. There's no space to get around the vehicles. So you're essentially stuck behind a left-turning vehicle and you can't go during the green phase. So we believe it would be for the good of the order to remove 3 of the metered spaces at the intersection there in order to install a 50-foot left turn lane. We're trying to be sparingly with the length of that left turn lane. There are certain criteria for how long it should be, and the recommendation from the state is 121 feet. We're planning on 50 feet just to preserve as much on-street parking as possible. But by removing those 3 spaces, we're expected to reduce delay at the intersection by 6.5 seconds for westbound vehicles during the evening peak hour. And it's expected to reduce the queue length by 33% for those westbound vehicles. So we received the complaint about westbound vehicles queuing up, and it's expected to resolve that issue. I will say the recent signal timing seemed to exacerbate that issue, make it even worse. So we made some tweaks to the signal timing to create better gaps for traffic trying to turn left at that intersection, but the problem still persisted. So we believe this is the best solution here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the thoroughness of your investigation as well as the presentation. Is there any further comment or questions from the commission?
What would be the timeline for this?
To implement it,
Yes.
a couple of months.
Okay.
Any other, please?
I don't believe that we reached out to the parking authority to confirm or.
We did not.
Larry's crushed.
I'm sure.
3 pieces.
But yeah, I guess it's just making sure that there aren't any major concerns or anything.
Not that he had placed to me before coming here today. So at this point, we don't have it. Other than we're losing 3 spaces.
Hopefully you would just reconfirm that.
Yeah, we can touch base again, just to make sure.
Are there any other comments or questions from the commission? Any comments from the public?
Knocking things over. I'm curious if it will also include a left turn signal.
I can speak to that a little bit. So there are certain criteria on whether or not a left turn signal is warranted at the intersection. First step, based on vehicle volumes and opposing volume, you first add a left turn lane, and then if there's enough opposing volume, you will have a protected left phase. This does not have enough volume to justify a protected left phase, so it would strictly be a left turn lane.
Will it also affect the LPI?
No, the LPI will stay.
Okay.
Any other further comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for action item agenda 34-2024 and make a motion to remove 3 metered parking spaces on the northeast corner of James Street at North Duke Street to prepare for installation of a left turn lane.
Wow,
Seconded.
a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the public? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much again, Beth.
Thank you.
The last item on the action agenda is is item 35-2024, considering the request from Brian Cooley of DC Goen Associates, Inc., to present a final land development plan for 715 Fairview Avenue. Mr. Cooley?
Hi, good afternoon. Brian Cooley with DC Goen Associates, located in Mount Joy. I'm also a city resident, 439 North Charlotte Street. So I'm just going to go over what LEMSA, so this project involves LEMSA, the ambulance provider. Currently, they have different facilities around Lancaster County as far as EMS is concerned. This is the former AMVETS building along Fairview Avenue. So they purchased it a few months ago, and they're planning on moving all their administrative offices, IT, HR, so forth, as well as all their fleet vehicles over to this site. This is not a 911 dispatch center. It's strictly for personnel only. So they're going to be renovating the existing AMVETS building, which is a 2-story building. There's access from Fairview. And if you drive around to the back, there's an underground or like a below ground entrance. The existing pavilion, which is, will remain on site, that'll be used to store different narcotics, medications, just office supplies and so forth. And there's also a proposed 9,100 square foot maintenance building, which they're proposing, and that would strictly be for their fleet maintenance only, not for public use, strictly for LEMSA. So a couple of things that they're proposing. So currently, and I'll just point to the screen up here.
Were there were images, are those images able to be shared?
Oh yeah, there was PDFs of the plan that were submitted.
There was one called the Traffic Commission. The first, on the far left is the Traffic Commissions.
No, with the layout plan.
Oh, the layout plan, okay.
Yeah, that plan would work great, thank you. So this is the proposed layout plan. Again, I'll just orient the Traffic Commission. So the existing MVets building is in the middle of the project of the plan. This is the existing pavilion, Fairview Avenue running this way. This is Lucille Court right here. So again, they're proposing, here's the proposed maintenance building, the pavilion stays, the MVets building being renovated. There's a two-story building addition out the back of the MVets as well. Right now, along Fairview, there's the existing two-way entrance, which goes from Fairview into the site. And there's also the existing angled parking that runs along the building. And then there's a small parking lot here, which is 4 spaces, and then that exits onto Fairview Avenue. This small existing parking lot it's a little offset from Lucille Court, doesn't line up exactly with it. So as we work through the comments with city staff, and this is mainly when Douglas was here, LEMSA decided, in consultation with city staff, to remove those existing 12 spaces between the existing building and Fairview. That was a one-way access. So there was issues with cars that would come down here, make a left, and then another hard left onto Fairview, just from a sight distance standpoint. So this will all just be grass area and landscaping through here. So what we did is we took those 4 existing parking spaces and reconfigured the parking lot to accommodate 5 total spaces, and that aligns directly with Lucille Court. That's a two-way access as far as parking, so there's parking on both sides with a 25-foot access drive. So it's not one way, it's a two-way access drive. So that creates good sight distance coming out of this small parking lot along Fairview. It should be noted that there's about 38 employees that'll be on site, but all those employees will park back here in this proposed parking lot area here. These 5 spaces are mainly just for, again, this is something that occurs maybe once a month where someone just drives in and they want to get like a quick vaccine shot or something like that from LEMSA. Like they do offer those community services to the community. Again, it's very rare, but it was important to have at least a few spaces here to accommodate any walk-in service. And of course, there's a handicap space here for ADA accessibility. There was dumpsters here. Those are relocated to the back of the property down here. So again, we're just relocating these spaces to align with Lucille Court, provide two-way access, and to provide 5 parking spaces in that area. I believe that's all that's necessary, at least from the Traffic Commission standpoint. Is there any questions related to the plan itself or the proposal before you tonight?
Are there any questions? Lauren, is this something that is this a proposal
Yeah,
you're familiar with?
The Planning Commission did approve this plan on July 3rd. There were just a few conditions of their approval, all non-technical, so the plan has gone through.
And so all the issues regarding the amounts of parking and all that kind of stuff, it met the
Yes.
requirements?
I will note that there is an outstanding comment related to the configuration of the driveways, in that these are sort of radius driveways where we would be requiring a driveway apron. So I think that's just, there's maybe a slight modification. The location and width and everything are correct. It's just there might be some modifications related to the actual, construction of the driveway.
I understand that the detail from the city does not require radius returns for the entrances?
Correct. It's
Okay.
The driveway apron, more similar, actually, I think, to what is currently out there. But yeah, were you aware of that, or?
Yes, I did see the detail, and in our previous response, I believe I did indicate that we are proposing the radius returns. And that's mainly for LEMS's fleet vehicles to get into and out of this existing entrance here. So they do have larger pickup trucks. In addition, LEMSA does have the wash trailer, which is used for the homeless. That would be stored here as well. So I believe that the radius returns, I believe, are necessary specifically for this entrance, for this one, in order to accommodate vehicles coming in and out. This is only about, I think maybe like 30 or 32 feet wide total through here, which again is the existing entrance roughly, but I believe that those radius returns are necessary to accommodate that. So if that's something that the Traffic Commission also has to consider tonight, I would request that the radius returns, be shown on the plan as presented.
Yeah, that's not consistent with our details, related to driveway. I mean, is the idea that it would still be a ramped up to sidewalk grade? Because the driveway aprons are basically providing a consistent path for the pedestrian versus ramping down to a driveway.
Yeah, so there are details on the plan which show, so right now there's no sidewalk along Fairview on our side. So LEMSA is proposing a 5-foot sidewalk along their entire property. We are proposing 28 street trees. Again, there's no street trees right now. So there's details on the plan for the ADA ramps at this intersection, as well as the revised new driveway intersection. And it does show that, the ADA with the detectable warning strips meets ADA requirements with the radius returns.
I guess what I'm saying though is it ramping down?
Fairview Avenue in this area is, like 9 or 10% street slope.
No,
So,
I mean, the sidewalk level, like if you,
it ramps down so the curb is flush, which meets ADA requirements, even along the radius return. There's curbing along the radius return, but it's depressed curbing.
right, and
with
that's not what a driveway apron provides. A driveway apron provides a consistent path for the pedestrians across the driveway. So rather than ramp the pedestrians, so if you're in a wheelchair, you would have to ramp down to the driveway grade where a depressed curb is located. That's not how the driveway aprons are constructed. They're more of a consistent slope across the driveway, or across the sidewalk.
So Fairview Avenue does have curbing, and we are proposing curbing come along the radius returns. So if the driveway, how does the driveway detail deal with curbing when it has to ramp down because there's 8 inches of curbing that you have to ramp down to. So I don't know, why does it make a difference if you ramp down with the standard detail without a radius, or if you have a radius, because they both have curbing. So they have to ramp down no matter if it's a straight section or if there's a radius, it still has to ramp down to make up the 8 inches of the curb, that becomes depressed along the handicap ramp itself.
Yeah, I think so is the driveway asphalt or concrete? I guess is the,
Well, it'll be per the detail that was provided by the city. So it'll be concrete now. I think,
if it's per the detail, then it wouldn't have the curb returns, on it. I mean, I think from the commission standpoint, we can probably approve it conditional on engineering approval, if that's, you know.
Well, and I think that we were in the same boat because we had the engineers looking at the ADA ramps as well. So I think that the engineer, it's still waiting, they're waiting on engineering for that also. So I think that,
From the plan.
yeah.
Conditions.
yeah, the only comment from the city engineer, C.S. Davidson, the consulting engineer, their only comment was, so we are providing a proposed crosswalk from the new driveway, and then again, there's ADA ramps here. There's a new crosswalk. There's existing ADA access on this side where Lucille Court is. We're proposing an additional ADA ramp here to coincide with that proposed crosswalk. So that's the only remaining technical comment from the city engineers, C.S. Davidson's letter. They've already reviewed the ADA ramps in this area, which I previously reviewed.
Understood, but I think there was an additional.
There was, it's in, I have it pulled up. It's in the zoning ordinance comments, section 300-42D. A driveway permit must be approved by the city engineer for the proposed access drive along Fairview Avenue. The response was given that the driveway permit will be obtained for the proposed access drive along Fairview Avenue. And the comment from CSD was currently outstanding.
I think we just need to coordinate on that. I believe Kevin also sent an email, it says on June 7th, indicating that they need to be driveway aprons without curb returns, consistent with the city specs.
Yeah, and I believe I did respond to him requesting why we thought it was necessary to have the radius returns. And then, I don't believe I received a response, but
Well, your response was, I will incorporate Kevin's comments in the next round response letter, next comment response letter.
yeah, so, right.
So I think, yeah, we just need to work through that detail.
So am I hearing that you're proposing that, for purposes of the traffic commission, this be approved, subject to approval at the engineering level of the
Driveway details.
of the driveway details? Is that something that people can live with? Do we want to hear a motion to that effect?
So I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if we want to request a modification to have the radius returns, does that have to come back to the traffic commission?
I would say-
No.
I think
I think that's to me.
it goes back to plan,
We probably, yeah.
not to traffic.
And would that have to go back to planning commission?
If it's a modification, yeah.
Okay.
It depends if it's a true modification or not, right?
Right.
So in many ways, it's incumbent on the parties to
It
try
can
to.
be incorporated into the conditional, as you go through the conditions, you can add it into the conditions before, because you still don't have the final approval, and so you can wrap it all into one.
Okay.
As far as the purview of the traffic commission is concerned, though, we can approve it subject to the engineering, resolution of engineering, as Cindy had stated. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Was that a motion?
Yes, so
There's been a motion, and has there been a second?
Second.
Cindy will second. So there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or clarification necessary? Is there any comment from the public? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Passes, just make sure that the engineering gets approved. Thank you. So that finishes our action agenda. The next item is our consent agenda with a variety of handicap parking signage tentatively improved and installed, no parking signs in load zone under 35-2024. Oh, in fact, the numbering may need to change because Mr. Cooley's resolution was 35. This one would be 36, 2024. The numbering has to be adjusted, I think.
We'll take care of that, Director.
Okay. So there's 3 items on the consent agenda. Following signs having been tentatively approved and installed, following signs being removed, and following conditions temporary parking permits have been issued by LPA.
Director Campbell, I do have a question. Is it necessary for us to have to make a motion, an official motion, to change the agenda items prior to making a motion to approve them? So in other words, 35-2024 has to be 36, 36 has to be 37, and then 37 has to be 38. Would it be appropriate to make a motion to change those?
Change those.
So I would like to make a motion regarding the consent agenda to change item 35-2024 to 36-2024, 36-2024 to 37-2024, and lastly, 37-2024 to 38-2024.
It's been a motion.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we can make a motion.
And Director Campbell, I would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda for the newly created items 36-2024, 37-2024, and 38-2024.
It's been a motion and a second.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The last item on here is the additional business, which is an update on the residential parking permit update. Cindy, you're making that presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so just wanted to provide an update related to where we were with the residential permit parking study. It's mainly sort of a quick update on the engagement that we had for the month of, what are we in? For the month of June. So, and we are there. This is a very brief presentation, and then we do have a presentation with more detail posted on Engage. If anyone would like to look on Engage to see more detail about the stakeholder engagement that we went through. And then I will just reiterate that we don't have any recommendations at this point. Recommendations from the consultant will be provided on July 30th at 5:30 here in City Council chambers for a special meeting related to that. So this is just a quick overview. We did stakeholder engagement, actually it was in May, I apologize. So we did an online survey. We also did in-person surveying during Mayor's Neighborhood Week. We asked people to fill out the surveys in person as well. So there was a traffic commission presentation and open house on May 14th. And then we also had a virtual open house on May 16th. So people that couldn't attend in person had the opportunity to also engage on May 16th. Here's the next one, Cindy, thanks. So we had unprecedented response. The survey that we put out had 726 responses, which is much higher than we get for general projects related to engagement. So there's obviously a lot of interest in parking. 65% of those were permit holders. This diagram on the right is sort of showing you the locations for where people resided who took the survey. The next one, so just some of the major challenges that people identified in the survey. The highest challenge being trouble finding a permit parking spot even with a permit. So we, 26% indicated that. So obviously saying that even we're issuing more permits than we have parking spaces for on some locations. The next highest challenge was non-residential permit parking vehicles, parking in permit-only areas. So there was we heard a lot about enforcement and people that shouldn't be parking in those areas that are. And then the next highest was trouble finding a spot for pickoff and drop-off. So maybe more like loading zone or those kind of things. Next slide. So then also some of the other feedback that we received that wasn't maybe specific to the questions we were asking, but other things or challenges that we asked people to identify. As I mentioned, better enforcement. We heard a lot about parking alternatives for street cleaning days. That creates obviously a parking challenge for any blocks, but RPP especially. Providing more residential permit parking spaces or expanded residential permit parking areas, easier renewal process and application process, more short-term parking alternatives, and just more information about making parking easier to access. And then also, revision to some of the signs. I think there was some comment that some of the signs aren't consistent in all of the RPP areas. Next slide. So this section, I'm just going to give an overview of what the consultant is considering as far as the types of recommendations they're looking at. And this is, again, what would be presented in detail in July. But it includes how we designate residential permit parking areas, so determining, probably identifying different type of eligibility, what streets would be eligible, and if they should include larger zones, smaller zones, and revising the requirements and adjusting the existing process as far as becoming a RPP area, or if the driver for the RPP is no longer relevant, then we're taking streets off of RPP as well, potentially. Permit eligibility is another thing that's going to be looked at as far as who's eligible and the different user types that we're permitting. The permit issuance process, so the requirements related to yearly verification, those kind of things, and then also potentially a progressive pricing structure and low-income pricing as well. Next slide includes additional items could be related to exemptions. If there's different groups that maybe would get exemptions from the RPP criteria, application and renewal process, streamlining that, maybe more online related to that, and then enforcement, potentially, with license plate recognition technology, so that it's easier to enforce, particularly related to the 2-hour limits on RPP parking. Recommending staffing enhancements, and then finally, guidelines related to special events that may affect RPP zones. So these are just some of the things that the consultant's looking at that would likely be included in their recommendations for RPP. So I think the last slide is related to what the next steps are. As I mentioned, July 30th at 5:30 will be the presentation. The consultant will be here to present the recommendations. So then the month of August would be our engagement process. So basically gathering feedback related to those recommendations, and then in September providing, at the Traffic Commission meeting, providing the final recommendations and likely an implementation schedule at that time.
And if I'm correct, that implementation schedule would be so that the RPP program, as approved, whenever it gets approved, could go into effect, be implemented, and be usable for 2025.
That is the goal, yes.
Are there any questions or comments from the commission on the presentation, on the update? Questions from the public? Again, as Cindy said, this is more to make people aware of what the progress is. We very much encourage and invite people to be actively involved, especially on July 30th. Is the Engage website still open, and is it still receiving comments?
I don't believe it's still receiving comments on, there was a survey, just trying to gather feedback about the existing program. So it will be updated after, around July 30th and related to a survey related to the recommendations. So then people can provide their feedback on the recommendation.
And will this presentation be on the Engaged website if people are looking to see what progress has been made?
Yes, an expanded version of this presentation is on Engage currently.
Okay.
So it provides a little bit more detail about the public feedback if anyone is interested.
Okay, very good. We don't need to take any action on this. Thank you very much for the presentation. Are there any other agenda items or any other additional business? If not, I'm willing to entertain a motion to,
Director Campbell, I would like to make a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting.
Seconded.
motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very, very much. An ambitious agenda. We did it. Oops. Thank you. Thank you very much. Adjourned at 5:13.